My name is Dennis J. Hanna, and today we are seated in downtown Oklahoma City in the corporate offices of Bank First, the state's largest state-chartered bank, a $4 billion institution. I'm the Executive Vice President of Financial Services here and serving in this bank for 27 years. I am a native Oklahoman by 7 generations. I am a Jalagi Yahidli. I am a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. I grew up near Tahlequah. To the east of us, about 185 miles in Cherokee County, is the capital of the Cherokee Nation, which is the second largest native government in the United States, following our Navajo cousins out in New Mexico and Arizona. My family moved here to Oklahoma in 1839 on the Trail of Tears, when the United States government decided that the Indian tribes of the East should in fact be removed so as to not be a hindrance to white settlement in what we know of the states of Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. And so we moved here, and as my grandfather would say, we've not been able to save up enough money to leave yet. My family is from the town. We didn't have villages, we had towns. My family is from the town of Delagua, and probably during the 1500s there were as many as maybe 8,000 people lived in Delagua. It's located in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains along the Conasauga Creek in the Ocoee River Valley. Today the nearest town is called Tellico Plains, and there's nothing left of Delagua. But I will tell you, it is beautiful country, and I have been there, and I could see why that when they traveled almost 1,500 miles from that part of Tennessee to what is now Oklahoma, why it was the trail where they wept, the Trail of Tears, because they were leaving something that was just as ancient as they were as a people. We are one of what is known as the 5 civilized tribes. There were 5 Indian tribes, predominantly from eastern states, that had forms of government almost in direct parallel with the United States. They had written constitutions. Our first constitution, written in 1827. And we've had 4 since, of which the Constitution of 1999, I was the chair of the Constitutional Convention for our tribe. So we're a literate people, and as well as so are the Creeks and the Choctaws and the Chickasaws and the Seminoles. And we're the only Native American government to have our own written syllabary. Oddly enough, upon the time of the removal of the Trail of Tears in the 1830s, the literacy rate of the Cherokee Nation was higher than that of the United States. We had more men, women, and children who could not only speak but read and write the Cherokee language in Cherokee than the United States could proudly quote of those who could read and write in English. I go back to the small piece that's at the bottom of our tribal tag, where it says "Ga Du Gi," and you know, you have to appreciate a language that takes one word and describes something that in English you would need an entire paragraph to talk about. And "Ga Du Gi" is one of those words. To really describe its literal meaning, it means that we only do well if we help one another out. From a discriminatory standpoint, we do not see it in a classic sense of skin color, because you'll notice that if you saw me on the side of the street and said, "Gee, pick out the Indian," you probably wouldn't pick me out. What's interesting about that is that I'm the same blood quantum as Principal Chief John Ross, who held office as principal chief longer than any chief in the Cherokee history. He elected in the 1820s and served until his death in 1866. He led the Cherokees on the Trail of Tears, a very respected man. So we have had a variety of complexions in our tribe for a long time. So in the 20th century, we talk about discrimination. People often look to skin color as a discriminatory basis, and that has just not been a part of our existence here in Oklahoma. Most of our dilemmas are self-manifesting. We suffer just as most all Americans did during the Depression years of the 1930s, and we still struggle in Oklahoma with a strange dichotomy of economics. We have very poor counties, and we have some counties that are phenomenally rich. Today, Indians in Oklahoma have become financially much better off. I have the honor of chairing something called Cherokee Nation Enterprises, which is a business subsidiary owned by the tribe, and we're in the gaming business. And gaming is very controversial. We view it not as an end, but simply as a transitional piece. The Cherokee Nation makes a great deal of money in the gaming business, but we realize that it's only a period in our history, and so we are taking those gaming dollars and we do not disperse them per capita among our tribal citizens. We hold them and we invest them tribally. So we're investing in other businesses, businesses that manufacture things, businesses that are in computer sciences, that are in aerospace industries. We're investing in businesses that our tribal members can generate educations, that they can have a much more self-reliant walk, so that they don't have to look to the tribe for health services or look to the tribe for housing services, that they can have good jobs and provide for their families on their own. And that's the real foundation that we have today. There's a very interesting clause in the U.S. Constitution called the Commerce Act, and it says that the United States Congress will regulate business with foreign governments and with Indian tribes. So we do have a very interesting competitive advantage right now, and we're in the gaming business, but we're not going to foolishly think that we should spend that money, or that we should just, as my granny would say, hoop it off. We're investing it in the future so that Cherokee children within the boundaries, the historic boundaries of the Cherokee Nation, which makes up 14 counties in northeastern Oklahoma. We're one of the largest Indian nations in Oklahoma as far as historic boundaries and square miles. That people that grow up in that area, that they'll have educational opportunities and they'll have employment, career opportunities. They'll be able to pursue quality of life at their pace instead of someone else's. With those who do not know their history, in many ways have no future. I just happen to have this book here, and it's called Outliers. It's the story of success, written by Malcolm Gladwell. You'll know him as the man who wrote Tipping Point. One section of this book says, what is the question that we ask about the successful? We want to know what they are like, what kind of personalities they have, or how intelligent they are, or what kind of lifestyles they have, or what special talents they might have been born with. And we assume that it is those personal qualities that explain how individuals reach the top. It says in Outliers, name of this book, I want to convince you that these kinds of personal explanations of success don't work. People don't rise from nothing. We do owe something to parentage and to patronage. The people who stand before kings may look like they did it all by themselves, but in fact, they are invariably the benefactors of hidden advantages and extraordinary opportunities and cultural legacies that allow them to learn and work hard and make sense of the world in ways that others cannot. With that, it makes a difference about where and when you grew up. And that's the part that Gladwell put in his book, that it really does make a difference about where you were born and how you grew up, and therefore who you are and who you will be. Di Dayolehan Dagalaneska, and in Cherokee that means it's kind of our word for goodbye. And it's kind of a long phrase for a goodbye, but it literally translated, it means until we see one another again, because Cherokees have a belief that once you come into acknowledgement of one another, you get to know one another. When you meet Daphna, that you will always know Daphna, that we will always know one another, and we cannot conceive that there would ever be a time here or in the hereafter that we would not know one another. So, Di Dayolehan Dagalaneska.